Hey everybody, it's Eric from EPAutos.com, your libertarian car guy, and we got a respite from the rain. It had been raining here in Southwest Virginia for the past 4 days, and I got a little stir crazy. And now that the sun is shining, and according to the weather report, there's 0 chance of rain today, I figured I would take the Great Pumpkin out for a drive. But the purpose of this video actually is quasi-educational. And I'm going to call this Old Car Pre-Flight. If you have an old car, you can't, or you shouldn't, just jump in it and go, particularly if it's been sitting for a long time, because old cars, like old people, they can get a little bit fussy, and you want to make sure everything is copacetic before you head out on the road. So I'm going to do my little ritual here and show you some of the things that I recommend checking before you take an old car out on the road. And also some of the things I recommend you bring with you. I always bring with me portable jump start, little suitcase buddy jump starter here, just in case these old cars sometimes have issues. The battery might croak, my alternator might croak. That'll get me back on the road. Which is important with an old car. You don't want to have to leave a nice old car stranded out somewhere, or heaven forfend, the horror, have to get it towed somewhere. The next thing, which I don't need to show you because it's sort of self-explanatory, is a cell phone. Much as I often rant against cell phones, it is nice to have the ability to call up a buddy or somebody who can help in the event that the car breaks down or something goes wrong with the car. The very next thing that I check, and I've already done this, and the reason I'm not going to show you is just because it's just me here and it's very hard to do this without a helpful intern, but you want to look at and check the pressure, confirm the tire pressure of all 4 tires. Old cars, like my car, sometimes have old tires. Tires on this car are probably more than 10 years old, which means I probably should replace them, even though they've got plenty of tread because the car isn't driven that much. Tires tend to wear out, the rubber ages and cracks and gets brittle and so on. But I figure I'll take the risk. I'm not going to be subjecting this thing to any high performance activities, or at least not many high performance activities. The main thing is that the pressure's up to snuff. In this case, 32 pounds or so in every tire, which I've already done. Now the next thing is to have a look under the hood at the engine and check the oil level. Oh, and by the way, let me show you something kind of interesting, which millennials will probably not know about. It used to be that a car's hood was on the hood latch was on the outside, because we didn't live in a theft-prone culture, believe it or not, once upon a time, and generally speaking, it was safe to park your car outside without some geek mucking around underneath your hood. So in this case, 70s Firebird, you pull on that, and at the same time, you lift up. And by the way, the hood on these old cars, you'll notice the hinges, they're not the cheesy little prop rods that you see in most cars with a little handle that you then use to support the weight of the thing. These are nice big meaty steel hinges because the hood is a huge honking piece of steel. I've had this hood off several times during engine rebuilds and so on, and the hood weighs something like 75 pounds, maybe even closer to 100 pounds. It's heavy, trust me. It takes 2 people to manipulate it and take it off the car. It's not like the cheesy tinfoil thin hoods that modern cars have that are so easily damaged in even minor impacts, and that's one of the reasons why car insurance costs so much, because the cars are so easily damaged and they cost so much to repair. All right, anyway, so first just a cursory visual. Make sure everything looks right. Belts are on and not off. No obvious signs of any leaks anywhere. Next thing to do is to check the oil level. Older cars, particularly older cars that have miles on them or that have been hopped up like mine and have fairly loose ring gap, will sometimes use more oil than you might expect. And you don't want to have your rare and expensive, in this case 455 engine, lock up because you ran it with too low oil. So let me check the oil, which on this car is way down over here. There's dipstick. Pull that sucker out. see what we got. Clean it off. You know, check, make sure that it's in between the little marker points, so bear with me as I do this again. I have not got an assistant, so I have to do this one-handed, one hand holding the camera and then the other hand checking the oil. Let's see what we got. Now, I haven't had this car out in probably a month, so it'll be interesting to see if I'm low on oil. Let's have a look. All right. So, yep, the oil level is perfect. It's right there in between the two marker lines. So we're good to go on oil. And by the way, just a little plug, they're no longer an advertiser on EP Autos, but nonetheless, I use nothing but Ames oil, in particular Z-Rod oil, in my muscle car. Z-Rod is a particularly an oil that's formulated for old muscle cars and has the additives that are necessary for old engines that have flat tappet camshafts. And I wish I could see what I'm doing here to get this back in. Not having a time. There it goes. Anyway, Z-Rod's a really good synthetic oil that has the additives that you need if you have an old V8 like this that has a flat tappet camshaft. At some point, I'm hoping in the relatively near future, as my post-divorce finances stabilize, that I'll have little money to play around with so that I can pull this thing out and put a roller cam in it, and then I won't have to worry about the flat tappet cams and the more expensive Z-Rod oil. Okay, next thing to check, coolant level. Another important thing. Sometimes it runs low. And you want to make sure you're not running low on coolant when you're out running around. And the level looks good, so we're all set. Looks like we're good to go. System's operational. Very much like they do with airplanes, though of course, when you're on the ground, the worst that can happen is you get stuck, as opposed to plummeting to your death from 20,000 feet. So, more up at epautos.com, the Net's Best Libertarian Gearheads site, and maybe I'll try and take some driving video of the Great Pumpkin as we go. So thanks for viewing, and we'll catch up with you again soon.